good to go.
March, we're here for a late night, look at that
Let's
bar.
see, we're gathered here today.
You know what time my day started today? I mean,
Well, I thought we were going out for drinks afterwards, so I didn't get prepared with it.
I'm wired.
That is a big cup of coffee. We're here for the town of Luxembourg Roads. Maybe I should do this first so you guys are ready. So we can talk. Okay. We're here for the town of Luxembourg Roads, Roadway, Equestrian Trail and Greenway Advisory Committee meeting Wednesday, April 23rd on 2014. Roll call, please.
Chair Corning,
Here.
Vice Chair Strelo,
Here.
Committee Member Harris,
Here,
Committee Member Siciliano.
Here. Okay. Approval of the agenda. Actually, do you want to report our liaison as well?
Oh, I can do that. Councilman Golden there. Comment Hutton.
Here.
Approval of the agenda. I think staff is very inundated with other things.
I make a motion to approve the agenda. I make a motion to approve the agenda.
I second the motion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Approved unanimously. Moving on to appointment of chair.
I'd like to make a motion to appoint Keith Harris as the new chair, to pump a little new blood into the system.
I'll second that.
All in favor, say aye.
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 We have Keith Harris as a new chair unanimously, and appointment of the vice chair.
I would like to nominate Joe Siciliano, new blood.
That backfired. I second that motion.
Righty then.
Mr. Chair, you're
Second.
I second
Oh,
it.
you did second it. I'm sorry, I didn't hear that. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Approved unanimously. Would you like to take over the gavel?
Where you are. I'll work here.
Do you want to be the recorder?
All right, item number 2, minutes. Do we have a motion to approve the minutes?
Well,
March
no,
26th?
actually, we haven't had an opportunity to read the minutes, so we're going to need to postpone that till next month. Or we're all going to need to sit here and read the minutes.
So you're making a motion to move, postpone,
Close until next month.
do we have a second?
I think they didn't come through on email? Nothing came through?
All I got was this.
That came through an email?
This came
Wow.
through. The agenda did not, and I checked repeatedly.
Oh, I'm sorry, I wish you'd let me know, because I thought everything went on through.
Well,
I
I
sent
think
it in
that
two
it
separate.
said agenda,
Yeah, but
and there was no punctuation, so I thought, well, perhaps this is the agenda.
Well, I sent them both together, and then it wouldn't go through because it was too big for everybody's computer. It's over the megabytes allowed. So I sent it in 2 separate emails, and I didn't realize it didn't go through on the second one. My apologies.
actually, I got it off the website.
I will share with you the IGC agenda that you sent me. I got a posting on my email website that it was there. Went to go open it, 45 minutes, an hour, still wouldn't even open. So that was for the IGC this
Yeah.
morning.
That was what, about 30 pages?
Mhm. So, you know.
So it had a lot of photographs, maybe that was making.
Yeah, it could very well be, but I just wanted to share that with you in case there might be an issue.
Well, that's good to know. We may have to see if we're having a glitch or a problem.
All right, we have a motion to move it. We have a second to move the minutes.
I see. Actually, both seconded kind of at the same time. so.
Okay,
Whatever,
No
which one
further,
you'd like to
any
take.
further discussion on the item? When we bring it to a vote, all in favor of postponing the approval of March 26 minutes, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it, 4-0.
Who was your first and second? I'm sorry.
Kathy did motion.
I was the
And
motion.
Joe, I think, was the second. Or was it you?
It was,
both-
you were
I
both
was
at
the
the same
second.
time, it doesn't matter.
We had 3 seconds.
Item number 3, presentation, there are none. Item number 4, old business. Item A, Okeechobee Crossing via traffic circles, equestrian lights, traffic lights. There's a road study that was provided for us on the roundabouts. The town manager have something to open this?
Yeah, I would just advise the committee, Mr. Chair, I did not intend for you to all have had a chance to read through this you got it for a few days' notice, but since Member Siciliano brought up the issue of roundabouts on Okeechobee at the last meeting, what I wanted to do is at least get it to you, and you can start to look at it, and obviously you can schedule it for another discussion, you can receive and file it, you can actually do whatever you want, there's various options. I will say that, the study did look at 2 intersections, Okeechobee and B and Okeechobee F, for roundabout sites. It recommends roundabouts for both, because at that point in time, which was July 2009, neither intersection qualified for a warrant for traffic signals. Now, I can tell you, for those of you who were at the meeting, I reported our traffic consultants, Simmons and White, finally had a chance to talk with George Webb, and they got the definitive answer relative to the current signal that we have at Okeechobee and B. And even that still, what the emails and everything was saying is that still didn't meet it, but because George Webb knew the town was interested in having a signal there, that based upon using counts throughout the entire area, he could justify it. And that's why I reported to the council. However, don't count potentially on a reimbursement if we go forward with it, because I think they're feeling like they're giving the town a break by permitting it now. You could have different opinions on how that is. So what they said here back in 2009 is correct. They didn't meet the warrants for a traffic signal at that time. And Calvin Giordano is recommending that, the town go ahead and do a roundabout. There are some issues right away, but I'm just giving you a quick review of my skimming of the document. I would think, if you want to, you could take it, you could discuss it tonight, or take it back, read it, give it more time, and then bring it back on the next meeting for further discussion up to the board.
I went through it briefly, and I got down to George Webb's letter saying that there were some issues with some of the map that was done. But basically, everybody highly recommends the roundabout. But nowhere in here is anything with actual structure where we can look at how it would fit. You can do offset ones, so the canal is not the issue, it's the, purchasing right away. But do we have anything, you were saying 80 feet.
80 foot diameter is the standard roundabout.
The diameter, but
We have 120 or 130 in total.
Well, they did say in here there might be possibly some right-of-way needed, but they might be talking because of the canal. I think if anything, the biggest obstacle would be the canal on the B road side. But you're right, from my standpoint, if you put a signal up, the signal does stop traffic, and then it releases it and goes. With a roundabout, you keep the continuous flow, slows it down, so that's really nice, keep the continuous flow. It's generally been found to be safer because people seem to be able to negotiate the roundabout. Sometimes when there's a lot of yields, that's where some people get a little confused. Like if you ever see, that's a good example. Lake Worth has some roundabouts at Lucerne and Lake, and there's a lot of yield signs. You've got to just pay attention to what you're doing. But nevertheless, it still allows for a freer flow, but the traffic calms very nicely. So, I think, they could work on Okeechobee. Now, the big question is going to be how much cooperation you get from the county on those issues. This is kind of road.
Any other comments from the committee?
Well, I suppose, what would the next steps then B, read over the report that you gave, and two, then who would we go to find out if the county is gonna be amenable, or if it's, you know, if there's somehow that we can, you know, include it in the bigger picture for the equestrian trail and the traffic, and, you know, I mean, I think it suits a lot of our purposes as far as demarcating Loxahatchee roads, and keeping the traffic at a steady flow, moving, you know, everybody to Southern that wants to do 90 miles an hour, and facilitate pedestrian traffic as well, pedestrian equestrian.
Well, if I may, I think it's a two-step process.
Okay,
In trying to answer your question, I think first of all, I wouldn't rush through it. I would have maybe a good debate, maybe at your next meeting after you've had a chance to all vet it and look at it. But the way to do it is, if you, as a committee, you want to pursue it, what you need to do is at your next meeting, take a motion and to ask the town council to either direct staff or through our consultants, Simmons and White, take a look at the feasibility and work with the county to see if, you know, such options are feasible and doable.
So would it be the committee's consensus to put this on the next month's agenda as old business, to give us a chance to review the actual report that was prepared by Colin Corndale, and then discuss it, or is that a?
Well, I have one comment on that.
Mhm.
Basically, once again, we have a dated document, but it's positive, so it is justification for us requesting the council look at installing roundabouts. So it's just a plus, and it's like, to sit here and look at all their little figures that don't actually today, you know, they're not relevant.
Right, but the theoretical rationale is what we would be focused on, not so much the numbers, because they need to be revised, of course.
Yeah, and so they say there, they recommend it. Bottom line, they recommend it. So that's basically all we need to know.
So what's your question?
I don't know that we need to
kick it back into the list.
go through this document, other than to, you know, read the bottom line.
Dina?
My concern is that we know that we have the space for it with the water that needs to nearby, and, you know, if we don't get a roundabout or some sort of crossing each intersection, we still need to consider having a trail going up and down. So my biggest issue is we look at what the space is. And then the other issue is, we are designing the space for the county as of now. So, I mean, there's always that bit where, yeah, it would be nice if it was the town's. And whether or not that is something that actually could even be attempted to be explored.
Right.
I don't understand.
You don't pay a fee to a consultant to work up something and then give it to a party that you have no recourse to, such as the county.
Yeah, but you know what the space is there. Do we know what the space is available?
Not the top of my head, I don't.
No, but the town knows, right? No.
Yeah, it's a record,
It's
to certain
not-
kind of issue of record.
And then, Mark also knows what the average space is that's needed for it, correct?
But I have not gone out and done the study, and I have not looked at it to that extent. I mean,
But it makes no sense for us to break our heads apart if we have no room for it at all. It's just knowing.
well, okay, let me say this. I didn't tell you this, but you'll see it when you read the study. You'll see the gentleman's name in there as one of the authors of this for Killing Horns, a gentleman by the name of Brian Kelly. Brian Kelly is now with Simmons and White, who is our consultant, so we do have the benefit of somebody who has intimate knowledge, and he's now working for our traffic consultant. So, I don't think the learning curve and all that good stuff, I think that information can be obtained quickly. The other thing that Councilman Golsonay just reminded me about is that on May 20th, the town is having a big special meeting, if you will, to talk about roads and a number of issues associated with roads. And so therefore, I need to amend what I told you earlier, because maybe if you do want to get the ball rolling, you might want to at least make a recommendation to me about getting started with it. What I could do is I could take that to the town council on the 6th, to make sure that, I have their approval to move forward, especially if it means going ahead and commencing any funds for any study. But we could, staff at least look at it up until that point.
Well, I was trying to actually do a very simple thing. This is the width on record, this is what's the average needed, and then from there go forward, just so you can have that basic
Well,
knowledge.
they've
Is that
already-
something
I
that
think they've
needs-
already recommended that, though, so if they, what I'm saying to you is that they recommended it, it must, the conditions must be there in order to do a roundabout. They recommended it. If it was not feasible, you wouldn't get a recommendation to do it.
Okay.
And I think what we need to agree on is, do we want to recommend it to the council, that we think this is the way to go?
And how do you feel about that? I mean, how do you feel about the traffic around us?
I would prefer a roundabout.
Okay. Me too.
Would it be,
How-
yes, Mr. Hall?
How do y'all feel about the roundabouts relative to horse trailers and things like that? Not a problem?
Not a problem. Actually easier, really.
Okay.
Would it be prudent to have Mr. Kelly perhaps speak to us briefly about roundabouts, since he was the one?
We can't really do that without council approval. We don't really
Very well.
access, staff that would charge us.
So, again, committee, your pleasure is?
Well, I make a motion that we take it to the town as a committee, to the council as a committee.
Do we have a second for that motion?
Well, because I mentioned it at the last meeting on my own, not being affiliated with trails, and so,
Well, let me suggest, if you could do it kind of like in a motion where you're indicating to town council that you think it has merit and you would like to have it explored, I think that gets you to the point where, and then it can certainly be a topic on the 20th, and if town council wants to authorize me to move forward with the consultants, we can do that on the
Then they'll
6th.
probably come back to you after the consultant has updated the numbers to see that the justification still exists and such and such.
All right.
what do you say?
He said, okay, I'll second that.
Again, please.
I'll second what he said.
All right, we just had a revised motion and a second, and the revision is to,
Okay, hold on, Jen, did you get that?
Not the revised, other than just
I would like to-
asking council to authorize a consultant to come back, talk to the
To
board.
review it, asking council to review it.
If I can
For
help, I would say,
permission,
I would say
it was
that-
different, it was for permission.
Yeah, what I said was, the committee believes there may be some merit in utilizing roundabouts on Okeechobee, and to ask town council to have staff and consultant explore
Permission to
the
explore.
feasibility of such. Is that okay? I don't want to make a motion, I'm sorry. but-
No, all the help I can get.
verbiage is
Vernacular
very
is
important.
not, yes.
All right, we have a motion, we have a second. Any further discussion? Not seeing any requested. I'd like to vote. All in favor of making this motion, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? It is approved 4-0. Old business A also has the equestrian lights. If I may, I have prepared the master plan of the equestrian trails for the 3 municipalities. I would like to show it to the committee for your review, comments, revisions. I already have one revision I wish to make on it. I wish to also highlight in the legend the 2 parks, the Royal Palm Beach Reserve Facility and the Loxahatchee Groves Park, as I think Palm Beach County traffic would be interested in those respects, as it would relate to the FRVAP grant possibilities, showing connections of the trails and the parks and whatnot. And what we have is a road map showing the acreage, Waxahachie roads, and the village of Wellington, with the borders of North Lake Boulevard on the north, Lake Worth Road on the south. On the east boundary is Palm Beach Boulevard, on the west boundary is Seminole Pratt. I color-coded the three different municipalities' trail systems. I've indicated on the map locations where the equestrian crossings would be located in Okeechobee, as well as what FDOT has said, indicated they would do on Southern Boulevard. So we can demonstrate that we have a continuous flow of equestrian trails from Lake, actually south of Lake Worth. I don't show all the Wellington's trail system on it. I do have the Wellington map to go along with it. And I have the Indian Trails Improvement District map, which has trails west of Seminole Pratt, which is not shown on this island. So I would like for you all to look at it, think about it, and make any revisions, changes, additions, deletions, and then we can go to a formal print and on hardboard to make a presentation to the Palm Beach County Traffic Engineering Department.
I just have a quick question, Keith. Will, there is that sidewalk thing along the canal at Okeechobee, will that be count? I know it's not in blue, but is that part of the equestrian trail?
I'm sorry, the sidewalk, what?
There's
down
a bike
Okeechobee?
path on the south side of Okeechobee. That is not a
It wouldn't be.
equestrian trail as of yet.
But it was something that we had talked about, Okeechobee having trails. And there's also the easement on here that we've been, Ron Gerald at one point in my time asked me to have that on the trail as well. But, you know, that's, Folsom isn't exactly,
I'm only asking
because
because
The canal side?
And not only that, but there is a, what do you call it? I think the name right now. Guardrail, thank you. There's a guardrail right there. And then you can go through that G square.
Yeah, I thought we included G square.
All right,
And
can
then
you
there's
mark
the
it?
trail going
Could you
through
mark it on there
here.
with a pen, what you're referring to, so when I go make the
I
file?
didn't
Just draw a circle around, draw a cloud around the area that you're talking about, and then bring over here a note.
How do you do this in the sunshine, by the way? When you can wait up and I was just
I'm
trying.
saying that.
How do you do this in the sunshine here? Do you need to take a picture of it afterwards or?
No, you're,
I will bring it back to the
something you
next
talked
meeting.
about from the last meeting that you were discussing.
And I'll bring the revisions back for approval at the next meeting.
The only thing I think what Member Corn was talking about is you need to have it for us, for the agenda, so that we have it ahead of time, so that people know this is what you're going to be discussing. I think you're okay right now because you've talked about this in previous meetings, it's a work in progress, but it's probably better if we have it ahead of the meeting as opposed to like just unveiling it. Night of the meeting.
Certainly. I was in town offices with it yesterday, and had I known, I would have left it there.
I thought we were some way at 160.
That's the picture on, there's a G inside of this club. We've got trails here, we've got the upcoming trails here.
Draw a cloud around it, bring over here and
Well-
tell me there's trails in there, so I can go back to the,
Do you need that though?
it's beneficial.
And I think they have trails in here, but I'm not sure.
They are working on them now, on along Orange, south of Orange.
And then there's several trails in here, like the yellow trails that are going in it that should complete this. But you have all of that. That's what you
Yes.
have.
far as claiming the bike path as a future trail.
I forwarded on.
Well, no, or at least there's going to be a trail.
All right, our Lodge Hatchet map did not show that, so, not being here since before September, how can we support the claim of the trail going across the south side or the north side of Okeechobee?
Is that a water control easement?
Where?
Lots of water control easement along the canal, Okeechobee.
I don't believe so.
It's not.
It's just a drainage ditch.
Yeah, it's the county's ditch, they are the ones that we know.
Well, we can show,
Well, once again, the issue is that the roundabouts with the horse trail on Okeechobee, all of it, with pretty much everything, it's a county road. And so, any improvements that we were to make, the one thing would be taking our tax money and spending it on a county road. But the county could at any point come in and change what you've done by widening the road and removing your trail, or removing your roundabouts, or removing your light, or whatever you put there. Unless the town actually is the entity that's responsible for Okeechobee. You're not really, anything you say is just that there's something, and you're gonna pay for it. You're gonna pay for it either way. If you're gonna pay for it by doing the work on the county's road, you should at least wanna have the road owned by the town. Because just logically to me, otherwise everything you do is at risk. Just like building something on someone else's land. That they can take
Once you
away.
leave, you still have to leave it there.
Yeah, and plus it's a risk because you don't even have an agreement with them that if you build a roundabout, it'll stay for 5 years or 10 years or 20 years. They could change their rules and, they could acquire the funding and come in and make it a 4-lane road or a 6-lane road, whatever they chose to do. And it has a state road designation as well, so, you never know.
Probably anything we would do would have to be through an interlocal agreement with the county, to get town's protection,
Yeah.
so those improvements aren't jeopardized.
So it may not be prudent to include that on this particular map.
Well, it's like almost as if there needs, and if you're gonna do what Joe's suggesting with the roundabouts, and we're already in conversation with them about a traffic light at Deaver, it seems to me there really needs to be a cogent conversation with them about Okeechobee in general, and the whole corridor from point A to point B, because west of us, they have a 4-lane intersection done up that, falls right down to our border. It's the same on the east. It's logical that they're gonna try to make it bigger, and the only thing that would stop it is some sort of agreement that we have with them that would prevent that. And that would cost us money in one way or another, unless they're really into just saying, yeah, take it and go on. Now, there is precedent for roads to be turned over from the county to a town. A1A in Jupiter being an example, which is a even far bigger and more involved road. The only difference is the county turned over everything except for control of the traffic lights, because they wanted to keep it in a sequence and, flowing system. But precedent exists, it's a possibility. I think if it's a big deal to folks, and I know Okeechobee is, I think it's the logical thing to have.
At least have.
At least have an agreement that has a period of time that makes it worth your expenditure. Otherwise, it really is questionable to expend our funds for their purposes.
At least have the conversation to see what their posture is, especially in light of some of the developments that have been proposed. Because you don't know how they're gonna react.
I don't know, their reaction could be no way, we actually have it on, but they don't, So, I'm just, before we go trying to spend too much money or waste too much time making plans for somebody else's property, they may say no. So,
It is an outcome plan at this time, which has been approved by, which supports at least the idea of it.
doubt that, but that's, the comp plan's not,
Well, it doesn't tell
the
me.
county's not liable to operate under our comp plan. They do what they do.
I would like to leave this map open even afterwards, after the meeting, if you want to continue looking at it, but I think we've kind of reviewed it as talk about working on this or anything unless there's, yes.
I just want to make sure, because I was pointing out that when he was talking, I didn't want to interrupt, and I just want to make sure that it was on the record, so that I'm not silent. The Corbett area, you know, that at least there's a remark that this goes to the Corbett trails.
All right, all right, all right.
You do have the Nina map?
The map.
Nina map?
I'm not aware of what you're referring to.
I sent out.
You sent it, I didn't bring it because I thought
Yeah, so
everybody had it.
we can send it out to everybody.
Yeah, I'll send it back out.
Okay. Item, yes, ma'am.
We might want to, I'll put a note over here, but we might want to include Hamlin Park, because they do
Yes.
have equestrian activities
Yes.
there that we.
Good idea, good
No.
idea. Would we want to put any reference to the FR DAP program on this? Or would the map just stand on its own and not?
Refer that? I'm not understanding the question.
We had some blank space here, of course, and I was thinking of what additional information we could put on this map that might help sell the idea. And of course, the lights would be a candidate for that grant. I was wondering, should we make any reference to that grant on this map, or did the map stay with what changes we made? Just a question for consideration.
And I suggested before that maybe we gathered a whole lot of documentation from the past, you know, everything from neighbor plan to, you know, historic documents for this area, for the trails, that are just supporting the idea of having the trails I think what's important is that this is not a new idea. This has been there, we've ridden on those roads, it's just that life's gotten busier, and at this point, we need, we need to put something that's more official. And of course, what will help is if we get the site control and have that in our place. I think you have that in your back pocket as well. Then that's, you know, that'll become Tallahassee.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, just some food for thought. I
Yes.
mean, you earlier articulated it very well. I mean, I think once you're done with the map, then we'll go ahead and I'll set up another meeting with Dan Weisberg, which I think you and I would probably go, and you can, you know, make the pitch as it relates to stuff. But strategically, I think this might be a two-purpose kind of thing. I mean, the first thing is you're doing the map to make the case for the control of western lights. That's the main thing. I don't know if you want to do anything that takes away from that argument. The second part is then you continue to build on that map for the trail situation.
Because without Okeechobee, we're bifurcated. We are no longer a unified town.
You bisected, yes, absolutely.
All right then, I think we've got a feel of where we're going on this part of 4A.
And that was my point, Joe, is that you have that right now because you have another entity, not us, another government entity owns a strip straight across your town that's 120 feet wide at least. And they control that very thing that is extremely important to everyone, which is that future of children. All of it that y'all are talking about is
Well, and as a roadway trails committee, in order for it to stay relevant, that Okeechobee be left to the town? How
local
can-
control.
To our control, exactly. How do we, as that committee, what steps can we take to make sure that that happens? Because, I mean, again, I'm looking at it, the big orange line right down the middle of your trail system.
I think we have to find out what the posture of the county's gonna be, and as the councilman and I were just talking before, you know, I don't know with all these new developments that are proposed, just, what the county's posture basically is regarding it, and where, maybe prior to these developments, they might have been more amenable to giving Okeechobee to the, make some kind of arrangement and let the town assume, responsibility for Okeechobee. Whether they will do that now, I don't know. It would be good to find that out.
Will that occur during the next?
It's gonna occur soon.
Sooner or later, this is your last political chance.
But let me offer one thing. I think maybe down the line, maybe in the near future, it might be good to have one of your meetings, either your meeting or the planning and zoning's meeting, be a workshop. Where maybe this board and planning and zoning gets together and they talk about Okeechobee from a comprehensive planning standpoint to provide input to the town council. The reason why I'm saying planning and zoning is because, that's the planning and zoning board, that they're worried about, they're concerned with the comprehensive plan. But as Member Siciliano was saying, you're grappling with, okay, what can we do as the roadway equestrian trails committee? So maybe, you put the brain power together and you guys come up with, some statements and some input that town council can use for the staff and everybody to go forward and see just how we have to interact with the county as it relates to the future of Okeechobee.
Would it be possible then to place that item on the next P and Z agenda, which is, 2 weeks away?
Well, if we do that, right now, I don't think you have anything coming up, so you wouldn't have a meeting. So that would actually be a good purpose, if you're gonna have a meeting. Maybe we cancel your meeting and put you guys on with them and you do one meeting,
That way,
do one workshop.
that way you can report on May 20th, which
Mhm.
I'll talk about.
Wait, then what is the date of that?
I'll tell you in a second.
Because it'd be nice to have the input at the meeting on May 20th, rather than everybody go off on one direction and you all have something you're working on, but not.
May 8th. So that would be, the councilman's correct, that would be in time to provide whatever input you have on that 20th meeting.
Well, I'm not gonna be there, but maybe that's,
How about Lawrence?
Lawrence? I have to actually go out of town, so.
You don't have to do it this fast, that was just something I threw out, but if you want to, we can.
I think that would be helpful.
Yeah.
Well, if you're having a workshop with town council on May 20th, it would be prudent to have it
Yes,
before that.
I think it would be a good use of your meeting for May and the P and Z board meeting for May. Now, they won't even have one, I don't think we have anything that's imminent that's coming before them, so.
Well, that could be a short and quick one then.
Yeah. So if that's what you'd like to do, we'll work on that.
Is that the pleasure of the committee?
Do I need to make a motion to get my pleasure?
Yes?
Well, then I make a motion that we attend the P and Z meeting on May 8th as a committee to discuss the future of Okeechobee Boulevard as it pertains to roadways and trails
And roundabouts.
and roundabouts.
Do we have a second?
Period.
I'm not available either.
I usually am here high, come tide or high water, whatever the expression is. What is the hell high water? Okay.
When,
But
are you
I'm actually
available?
fine on that.
What is your availability? Would you be available the next? Probably
15th?
see about trying to do it on the 15th, drop the P and Z's meeting 1 week.
The 15th?
Yeah, being that you'd both be taking your meeting and merging it, we could probably do it in,
Yeah, 15th I'll be there.
about Member Straylaw. That work?
Yes.
Okay.
Then the revision to my motion is not on May 8th, but on May 15th, to combine forces with P and Z to look at Okeechobee Boulevard.
And do we have a second?
I second
We'll have a vote on favor of the motion made by Member Soriano to have a joint meeting with the Planning and Zoning Board on the 15th to discuss roadways, equestrian trails, and roundabouts. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? None opposed, it passes 4-0.
You know, Mr. Chair, and I think, you know, obviously the public can come to any meeting, but I think this is one of those workshops where it's kind of between the two boards. You know, really exchanging ideas and getting deeper, so.
It's a hush hush. 4B, Florida Recreation Development Assistance Program Administrative Rule. Town Manager, do you have anything to say?
No, I'm going to defer to Member Corning. I believe she provided this information to us.
Please, Nina.
Basically, this was something that I was asked for to bring. I brought it. And then there was the application that was several pages long that I, you know, thought of the deadlines, et cetera, that the committee member Shilo asked to have, and I didn't have copies of it. So I said I'd provide it, and I actually sent it out that very night, including Dr. Lauder's letter where I had excellently drafted this other letter. It was really just supposed to come to everybody. If you guys want to talk about it in depth, be my guest. Yes, Steve is okay with it, but it was meant as something that I didn't have copies of to hand out at the time. And you had asked me for it, and so I sent it that very night when we had the meeting to everybody. I mean, to Mark and then we sent it again, and it came around the agenda maybe because I hadn't received anything, and it hadn't been forgotten.
So this was indeed just a receive and file item?
Pretty much. I mean, unless there's something specific that you guys want to talk about.
And this, again, this is not, I don't believe this is an actual grant application. What it is an administrative rule from the Florida Administrative Code which sets up their program.
Right. But I've given the small information that I was asked to bring. I brought that with me last meeting, and then I have the more detailed information, and Kathy wanted to have it, and so I provided it. That's what that was.
If there's no other further discussion, shall we move on to 4C? Discussion of preliminary drawings of non-motorized access gates.
I will turn this over to Member Corning, but I would just say we provided it in the agenda packet. This is something you can either try to discuss tonight or defer to another meeting to give it additional time. It was discussed back in 2012, I believe, 2011, 2012, and I think she wanted some of the newer members to see the information. You go ahead forward. I'm not going to work
We
here now.
did discuss the gates. We did discuss that we were trying to pass the horses safely, preferably not right near the canal and not right near someone else's property. We had looked at some examples, the pictures that I had taken from areas nearby, including Wellington. We had looked at the dimensions that I used in Wellington, the 42-inch opening, the 32 inches up to let the stirrups and knees go by. Back then, committee member Miles had drawn this up. We really didn't get into the depth of it at the time. And I was to go home and scan it, and we ended up on Hyannis. So, since there was conversation the other day at the Water Control District about gates, I just figured before they end up moving gates, to move them over to let horses go by, and maybe we don't want them to be too close to the canal, or maybe, you know, to work together with them and make sure that we have something at that point in time whenever they're ready. So I also did see Mr. Yogi today and showed him what we had from that plan. I'm telling him that we haven't made a committee decision on it yet, but I wanted to have his input since he's an engineer and so forth. And he actually had another idea, which was that if you have two posts, because of the space that we have, letting something through the difficulties of hinges, we would have two posts with something that would be similar to, you know, the train track kind of level up, that you could lock either on that hinge or you could lock it on where that balance part is into the post, and that might be a less expensive way to look at it. I thought it was actually quite interesting. So,
They have to be closed for what purpose?
it is in order to, there are certain places, not all places, but there are certain places where you want to make sure the cars don't go along there. For example, by the nudist colony, where the
Naked people are?
do you know where it is? Okay. Where the beginning of the trail is, you don't want the cars to continue. You want to stop the cars, you want to stop the ATVs, but you want to allow the horses to go through. That's a typical example. Another would be on 6th Court, where the road stops and then you're going onto that easement, right, basically across from Collecting Canal by where Sea Road is, that area in there. And again, that's not an area for ATVs or cars. It's something where you're allowing the horses to go through, but you still need to allow maintenance for the canals to manage to get in as well. So, the question is, how do you design something that is attractive but also feasible, within the space that we have available?
How big is the tractor that needs to get through?
Oh, okay.
Are they big ones?
You would want a 10-foot gate minimum, I would think.
Well, you see in Miles' drawing, there were 12 feet. But Yogi didn't indicate anything today. But, and again, this is just, I wanted to be able to have enough input from people who understand the horse side, the engineering side, the water control side, that we actually, and the cost, that somehow eventually we can come up with a decent idea and we have something ready when we need it.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
On North Road, you know how they have those swing gates for their maintenance? Okay, if the swing gate is from the canal, say, to however they need it, and then there is this area here, which would be the smaller gate that he's talking about, that actually you could already take advantage of their structure to put that other,
Question is for the open space for that.
well, it's already there. That gate right now swings the other way, their gate, so it would need to be turned around. Yeah, I mean, it swings from the non-canal side, so they turned theirs around so that it would swing from the canal, from the canal side.
Let me understand this correctly. So you would have basically the gate going the other way towards the water, if the water is right here. And then you would have a second gate?
Or a
Just-
section of that gate
That opens it, because
that would just have the swing arm that he's talking about.
Which is what Yoli was speaking about today, was this, how do you get it to stop and lock it in?
well,
That
and
was
now,
the-
how do you get it to be open or closed? Because if it's open 12 feet for a tractor, it's open 12 feet for a car.
Correct.
They're
You
never
know, I
open
mean-
though.
Well,
They aren't open.
Well, no, the whole idea is that this is, as the roads get busier, this is their maintenance easement. I mean, they still have to deal with access.
we have a comment to receive from our liaison officer.
I believe the gate could be made, if you're using the steel gates the way they have it, like you're saying. If you need to have it shorter, you can cut off the one end, as far as the length of the gate, because it's a steel gate. And if you did, like you're saying, moved it to the other end, and you wanted to only swing one way, is that what you're saying? Or what's the issue that you had there with the swing gate?
The
It
issue
swings,
is-
or it pivots now, right now, you just unlock the chain, and the whole thing swivels right down by hand. So if you're trying to reduce it, the overall width of it, you could cut the one end of it off after you flipped it around. You could cut the one end of it off, and back here on the point where it's into the ground, you can just set it up where it can be locked over here instead of the way it is locked now, which is just locked with a chain to another pole. Because you want to make something like this on the outside, is what you're saying.
Aren't you then
Where the horses
slipping
go.
the horses right next to the canal?
Oh, no, the other way around, like she said, put the pivot point next to the canal, and the horses uphill.
And then you're putting the horses right next to the properties?
Well, obviously you have to put
Yes.
one or the other, or you have to make two pivoting gates.
How do
You can't have a gate right in the center, their equipment cannot get through.
Well, that was the idea with this, that you have something in the center.
The thing is that the Wellington template is 30 or 40 feet wide.
Well, and no, there are various areas.
The kick is to have free access for the equestrians and a blocked access for any type of vehicular traffic. And it depends on whether you've got 20 feet of width between the bank and the property line, or you have 10 feet.
Or less, yeah, in some places, it's thin, like on the North Road and A Road, I mean, north end of the A canal, it's very, very thin.
The district does have the ability to gain property side access to the canals at various road crossings, instead of having to come down Okeechobee and follow the canal all the way up to North Load before they can go. So they have that luxury of being able to cross the canal at various roadway canal crossings.
Yeah, but then you're forcing them to come in, go back and forth, and then go back out again.
That
In some
also
areas, that
increases the
works, in
number
others
of
doesn't.
existing gates you would put if you,
That is
but now
very true.
they don't generally have that. There's a lot of places where that canal bank is open without any gate. And it isn't overrun with vehicle use, is what I'm saying.
My concern was that as.
It's not like you need a gate at each culvert crossing, as you said, there's 94 of them. So we go ahead and do that. Every culvert crossing, now we're doing 2 gates, or 180 gates. You know, somebody would like a gate contract, I'm sure. You know, you could stay busy a while. So I don't think we need that, you know.
How many have been on the F road easement or the E road easement for that matter? Okay, I've been there, obviously I'm living close to there. The issue you have is with actually the properties that actually do own horses, and sometimes dogs, but do own horses, that they come, as soon as they see a horse, they come running up, stick their nose over, and you need that little bit of distance.
Yeah, but you know, trail riding's kind of at your own risk. I mean, I'm all for making them as safe as possible, but you can't plan for every eventuality. You'll never get a trail put up, ever.
Yeah, but I'm not talking about not getting a trail, I'm talking about seeing the pass through is, I'd be rather near the canal than near the fence, frankly.
So, I mean,
I'd prefer to be towards the center somewhat, or offset from the canal, but I'd want to be as far away from the private properties.
You've never gone in the canal, huh?
Well,
I don't know, I mean,
But you're only talking about 15 feet on either side of the gate is where you're gonna have that inconvenience of whether you're close to the property line or you're close to the gate, because once you go through the gate system, you have the luxury of traveling wherever you wish to on the trail.
right.
So the question would you rather have a dog running up to you as you're coming through a gate, or would you rather be going through a gate and having the canal bank as an obstacle? Because after you go through the gate 10 feet, you're clear and you can move over either direction. So,
either that or you go through the center, and if we can come up with a design that manages to go through the center, why not? If we
Sure.
cannot come up with a design and it becomes too expensive, then I look at the other options.
then the opportunity is before us is basically to develop locations along the trail system of these gates and to determine how they're best to be constructed.
How many gates are there? That we would have to.
Depends where you position them. If you put them at each canal crossing plus the ends, the number is probably over 200,
How many are there existing?
far less. Probably one at the end of each of the roads along Okeechobee, and one at the North Road. And then any other cross gates are private right now, where people have just fenced off the canal easement or whatever.
And the opportunity we have, you know, to prevent AVs and other vehicles that come down, we need to put up a barricade, but a barricade's going to have to allow water district, equipment to also gain access, so it's gonna be one of those things, and how do you stop an ATV going across a roadway canal crossing and just going up the lane? Unless you have a barricade.
You don't, but the thing is, there's nothing different between that circumstance and the currently existing circumstance
So
in most
do we need gates
places.
at all?
And do we see that as, no, honestly, no. And not to let out the secret, but if you go to almost any of the gates, there's no lock anyway, just open it up. That's been that way for years, so, you know, other than on the college property, that's the way it is, to my recollection.
It's just
So-
basically keeping the horses out, not everybody else, because they're the ones that don't wanna get off.
Well, it's like it's an old fishing secret, if you know. That's how you go fishing anywhere you want. Sorry, but it's like that.
I mean, I had her attach this just in case, didn't have the booklet with you, but it does show some of the easements, you can see how wide some of them are. You can see how Wellington's handled some of them, and we don't have to figure this out tonight. That wasn't my intention. My intention was that, we started to get the juices flowing.
Really, the question is, do you need them? To what extent do you need to recommend them, or do you just?
I think we could sort of keep this in the back of our mind for when we actually have a trail that we might need that.
Well, and just on that subject, something I mentioned to Nina and mentioned to y'all now. It would probably be appropriate for y'all to be thinking about an interlocal agreement with the district that's gonna allow us to have the trails. Because the assumption that we're gonna bridge from the local bill to a trail system. But the local bill gives it to the district. The district's not us. Even if you look in this grant here, it talks about if an applicant for this grant is a special district, that special district has to have its enabling legislation, recreational opportunity provision for the general public, which is not in our enabling legislation of the district. So therefore, the only way to establish something, I think, is going to be with an interlocal agreement with the district that will say that we are going to get from you this land, and then we are going to do the following things: mowing it, provide signage, et cetera, and that's how you provide a trail system, because the district's they're not gonna do one. They have nothing in their budget when this is done to go and survey it, fence it, mow it.
So
There's no construction or maintenance funds in their budget, nor can they even use it for that, because that's not in their thing to do.
I think was F road done.
That was done by the county. So I don't know. I don't know how they justify doing that, but that's who did that.
So we need, for this committee.
And if you notice in Everett, they put up a fence.
Mm-hmm.
The district did the work, but they put up a nice fence the whole way down. They did not have gates at any of the crossings. They merely had a sign that said, no motorized vehicles, and that was all they had, because I had a nursery right on Everett, and I know how it was when they did it. We never really had, after the first week or two, anybody riding up and down it, because initially kids came on ATVs to ride up and down it, but sheriff ran them off a couple times, and then it ended. It became very, very unused and unmaintained trail that it is today.
Nina?
The E-road section was also done by the Road Control District, and that is just a short section from, it's from Okeechobee to South North Road, or just short of, because there's not quite an ending to it. And I see people riding on it every day. I actually see people riding on the part from Okeechobee to Collecting Canal every day as well, except there is a gate at the end of that, and so they have to come off it just before that. And in reference to the House bill, that's what I was trying to hand out last time. I mean, it basically describes the use for it, and I will tell you that the support letter was signed by all that I sent up to Representative Pafford, was signed by all board members of the Water Control District, and it was signed by all of the council members. Okay.
So it sounds like that the town, that this committee is going to have to make recommendations to town council to enter into an intergovernmental agreement
I think so.
to do that. Do we have such a motion?
Well, do we do that before we actually have site control from Tallahassee?
You might want to wait until the act's clear and we know for sure that's the
Very
case.
good.
So
On premature.
can we postpone this and have it on,
You know, come back up as an old
Full
business.
business time?
yeah,
Yeah, I wanted to get the juices started, just so that we don't sit dumbfounded when we actually do talk about it. I just wanted to go and kind of bring up the issues, bring up what's been looked at before.
No, I think everything's maturing, we're getting towards the point, and now things are starting to be something you have to worry about, but, you know, it's also getting in the budget process with the town, so that money is, money that we have in the budget now in the capital improvement stays there, and, you know, when we get there, that we appropriate it, because one thing to say we budgeted, but it's another thing to say, go ahead and do the work.
I do want to point out how easy it was with E-road. And there are areas that are not easy, and there are areas that are easy. And I think they're just,
Each of y'all could drive around, there's some spots that will eventually be issues, like on B Road South, you'll notice some gates that impede
well,
the
South
ability to
D.
go. As South D, the actual trail ceases to exist from Gruber down for at least 1,000 feet. There's just nothing on the canal bank, and the canal bank actually slept off in. I think it's totally on private property. I don't think that the district even owns any land on the far side there because of the way everything is sort of gone over. Canal's really wide, they don't have anything.
Okay, is there any further discussion on item 4C? Not hearing any, let's move to 4D, committee request for signage locations.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. At the April 1st council meeting, I brought this item, you know, this committee had previously talked about getting some signs up, and this was the sign you were looking for. So this was brought to the council in a larger item that dealt with miscellaneous budget issues that we had to take a look at. There were a couple that we had to allocate funding and do some council direction on those. This one had not been approved by council, so I took it before them, and we had gotten a estimate based upon this sign from Britco, who's always been our provider and done a very good job doing this, pretty good quotes. And they indicated that we were looking at roughly $144 for each sign. We had been working with some members, we've been told that we probably need about 17 signs. So that equated to a total cost of $24.48 that the town council would be looking at roughly, not including in-kind hours spent erecting the signage. During the council discussion, there was some concern. Some council members were a little worried because all the signage that we currently have within the town does not have the two posts. It's that kind of system, a one-post system, and they were concerned about that. So, one of the things, rather than take a chance on them not approving this, what I agreed to do is to bring it back to you, because I think this committee needs to discuss, number one, do you still want to stay with this sign, or do you want to go with some of the other signs that this committee has talked about in the past, or the sign that had been used previously and which they, by time, they've gotten taken down.
Which have two posts.
Did that have two posts as well?
Yes.
Really?
Yes.
I emailed you a picture of one.
Oh, that's right, you did, yeah.
But we could go with the one post, just every other sign is.
Yeah. I don't know, my recollection was, and Councilman, correct me if I'm wrong, I think they were concerned about the size of it. Was that what it was?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know if it's possible, but I think if you had the yellow diamond type sign. That would
Of the silhouette of the
Or
equestrian.
silhouette of the horse,
Mhm.
yeah, something like that, and have it say slow or something like that.
The problem with that,
Slow 30, something.
is the roads that have
No,
speed
no.
bumps, you are inundated with diamond signs. You
True,
don't even
true, that,
notice
well,
it.
I would remove all the speed bumps if it
Right.
was all that.
One more diamond sign, I mean,
No, I just,
this is a big sign. I mean, there's no way you're gonna miss this.
Right.
And-
And it's a life safety issue. You know,
Yeah.
you might be stretching it, but, you know,
Well, the placement is obviously very crucial.
How did, let me see.
rather than equestrian area, how about if it says welcome to Waxahachie Slope for horses, or something like that, so you get a.
Oh, okay.
Welcome to
Waxahachie
the
Road.
endless amount of space, a lot of letters for these.
Yeah,
Well, that's why I felt it needed more discussion, like, you know, everybody has an idea, so let's make sure we're all unified, and then, you know, come back to council, so it's not, you know, gonna be a problem.
The brown signs that were sponsored,
The brown signs were sponsored, and that is the, I mean, there's still one left over if you wanna have a look at one.
I've seen it.
At
Just
Taylor
wanna see
Farm by E
Yeah, these
Road
are
and
complete opposites,
North
so
North Road.
that brown
Right at E Road,
sign
when
is
you go
very
around
wordy.
the bend to E Road,
Compared with that,
See
which
one
is just
on
a
the
in your
right.
face sign, so I
Going-
think that's more.
traveling east. These are probably more the size of that, and they're actually, I mean, they're pretty attractive, I think. You know, they're, don't scream at you like that one. You know, and it's a question of size, whether that one's going to become obnoxious or do the job, I think, you know,
I would prefer to be obnoxious rather than be run over.
that is true too. So
You know, like
maybe
the
we
one
want to
that's
stick
just
to
a
the
horse
color, but
on
not
the-
make it,
That's so it's understood though, just
it's
the horse itself. The horse itself.
it's a universal symbol.
Yeah, even if you wanna add slow to that.
I thought we had to have the Florida statue on there.
You know, slow on
Yeah.
top and the Florida statute across the bottom there, because they're custom made signs.
And the diamond one doesn't.
I mean, whatever you decide upon, we're gonna go back to our sign company and get an estimate again, you know.
I was in Homeland today, and they had a sign, and it was a one-post sign, so it was about like so. It was Kelly green with just the rider, and it said slow horses, that was it. It was this same green, so you would find that more attractive?
Well, you know, at a certain size, I'm worried that that becomes, you know, I think if it's the right size, then you can deal with the yellow. If I don't know what size we're really proposing. If you're going yay high, you know, then the yellow is just going to, you know, canary you.
Well, that is what you would call a busy sign. I mean, because you really need the shoe, I don't think you need the shoe. I mean, they made this lettering extra large, you probably could get away with smaller lettering, you know. So that sign could probably be cut down and still achieve the purpose, you know.
I really,
And the color could stay, you know, like, you know, if it's the color that you think hits somebody's eye, so they really notice, you know.
Let me ask you something. Are you
the horse
sure?
thing really is-
And I know that ITID might have not checked the laws on this, but it seems odd to me that Wellington, as well as us, have the language in there originally. That we don't need the language in order for it to stick, you know, every person.
What do you mean,
the
you
law.
mean the Florida
The law.
statute reference?
Yeah,
Oh, the-
well, every person
the tra-
operating a motor vehicle should use reasonable care when approaching or passing a person riding or leading an animal upon a roadway or the shoulder thereof, and shall not intentionally startle or injure such an animal.
For what
That's what it
purpose? So we can sue someone in demand?
It's like the speed limit, there's a, you know, paragraph about each person who is driving a motor vehicle shall maintain their vehicle within the speed limit, you know, and then it's posted on the sign, you don't have to have that to have a sign. To me, I like the horse thing, because it just says, wake up, it's yellow, there's a horse here, you know, if you wanna say some words on top of that.
And you know, we did have some
People don't read, come on.
recently, we
I have a
had,
sign at the end of my road that says dead end, and I have at least
It's
50
actually the
people
other
come
way
down the
around.
road.
Usually these horse signs, just like when you enter an equestrian property, they're there to protect. That would be there to protect the town, it would be there to protect
I'm not concerned about the town.
You know, recently we put up golf cart signs.
I'm just asking, I'm
And,
asking.
you know, we had some criticism about, oh, you need to put all the rules and regulations, and I said, you know, that would be cost prohibitive, because the sign would be so large. The bottom line is, you indicate that, you know, golf carts are permissible, you indicate the ordinance number, you covered what you really need to cover.
And
Otherwise, we should have a billboard at the town that lists all the town ordinances, so that anybody drives in can read.
That was
You know,
not my
the-
question. My question was
just saying.
simple. It was, is it sufficient to mention the number and that's it? That's all I asked.
And this may be.
Yeah, I think that's sufficient, I think they did a good job with the number.
I'm not sure, but if part of the fear of them not approving that is budget, I mean, clearly, going back to the sponsored ones, we had sponsors before. Could we not get sponsored signs again?
We have $80,000 in the budget. We have another 40,000 coming for North, that other part that we have in this
We
year.
would show good faith if we're trying to save our money wherever we can. So that-
Remember, you can't use gas tax money for signage, that's why this had to come to council.
No, I know, but this is
Oh, okay,
not
just
gas
know.
tax money that I'm talking about. It's what we have in the budget for.
You
From the
you have
water
80
district.
you have $80,000
$40,000
budgeted
we
for,
have to be spent on,
no,
on that North Road,
Right.
district, north of that project, which is why it'd be nice to figure out the dates at that point, because at that end, there's one of them that's going to be understory research, you know? And that could be coming out of that 40,000, for example. And the science, I mean, that's, again, if we start doing certain things, you know, yeah, this on the road and on the trails. We have the other trail sign that says, send that out, but it's not.
It was just a question of if there was a risk of them not doing it. Clearly,
That came up before, and there was some issue about that.
Was there?
Yes.
Okay. People
And the council, I guess, is more, for whatever reason,
Okay.
didn't want to do that.
So we're at a situation where the committee has to reevaluate signage and make another recommendation. Do we want to continue with this, or think about it and carry it over till this is the next meeting? What is your pleasure?
I think the issue was, as you recall, having the two posts, that there should be the one post, and I would assume that every one of us is okay with that,
Yes.
right? And if we want to stay with the yellow sign, then we go ahead with the yellow sign, and we figure out, maybe make a rough estimate of the size recommendation and see what Mark can come back with on it. What was the size that you did figure out?
I'm saying,
What was the size of the?
this is 3 by 4.
Yeah, it's a very large sign.
Yeah.
Perhaps the sign fabricator can give you an alternative size to the.
Oh, I think,
so
yeah, I
that
think it-
decides what the standard is if you want a larger sign.
I think it definitely could be cut down, that's what I was mentioning. I mean, I think you could cut those letters down and still have the same. I mean, they tried to magnify that, you know, which is good. I understand what they were doing. This is probably superfluous or extraneous. I mean, here they are identifying themselves, you know, as Indian Trail, and then the statue.
Well, and you know, if you were to do away with the equestrian area, slow for horses, put the horse on top. I mean, isn't it obvious that you're equestrian area?
Well, maybe that's why I thought you guys might want to talk about it, and maybe come up with your own design, or based upon this and all the other examples you had.
I think I'd like to make a motion that we get some more sample, get some more ideas. And then review them so that there are more choices for all of us.
If you do that, then I can cost it out and let you know before I take it to council next time, so we can just do this in a more coordinated fashion.
Certainly. If I may, I'm not sure if I can do this, but I would like to suggest that we consider alternatives to the sign that we've already put to the town council, and that they had balked at, and that at the next meeting, we share our ideas and come up with a solution to the dilemma and make recommendations of a sign size, its verbiage, and have Mark price that out so we can go back to town council.
That sounds like a good plan, if somebody wants to make that as a motion.
Or consensus. Yes.
Or you can move the guy, we can
he can ask for consensus.
Do we have a consensus on that?
Yeah, we can do that one.
Yes, I consent.
Yes, okay. All right. We have a consensus to put this on to next meeting?
Or
Yeah.
Well, not the next
it might be that meeting after, because you're
That's one
going to try to
after.
do the workshop
Right,
next
right.
meeting. so-
That's correct, okay,
Yeah.
very good.
Give us more time to think about it, look at it.
Okay. Very good.
We've kicked that ball down from the line for
All right,
quite some time now.
Item number 5, new business, there is none. Item number 6, administrative update. Mr. Peck.
Yes, sir. One thing I wanted to mention to the committee is, as you know, Mayor Browning has an appointment to this committee. However, we have not received much interest from anybody, so what I wanted to do was just to remind the members, if you know of somebody who might be interested in serving, and have them get their resume into us or to Mayor Browning, so that he can make the appointment. And then we'll have a complete board, full committee. The only other thing is, that I wanted, at several points in the past, you have asked me about the $40,000 that the Water Control District had via an interlocal agreement with the county. And what the Water Control District did is they basically worked out the arrangements with the county, and it's up to the town now to accept, they want to basically pass the $40,000 to the town for the purposes of constructing the trail, as per the original interlocal agreement. Council had asked, at a meeting we talked about it, asked the town attorney to look into some matters relative to, could $40,000 also be used if there's a grant and a match and that kind of thing. And he did work on this with the attorney for the Water Control District, and I believe they had a conference call with one of the attorneys at Palm Beach County. And the town attorney indicates there aren't any issues, so we were good to go. We pulled the item from the last meeting because there was, the last meeting, April 15th, was supposed to be a larger discussion relative to roads in general. However, due to the agenda being large and it took quite some time to finish it, that was pushed off to the May 20th date that we talked about. So what we're going to do is we're going to bring the agenda item to the town council for their approval. The Water Control District Board of Supervisors has already approved it a couple months back. So now it's up to the town council to basically accept it, and then they would be, the interlocal agreement would essentially be between Palm Beach County and the town for the use of that $40,000. So that's the status of it right now. We're looking to do that for the 6th. And that concludes my update.
Closing comments, we have no public committee members. Joe, would you like to make any comments?
No, I have nothing further to say, thank you.
Ms. Nina?
Yeah, I just hope that we kind of, some things I hope we don't overcomplicate, and other things we need to go and kind of get our creative juices going. So, we seem to get stuck on some items that shouldn't be so hard, and other things that are so hard that we need to figure out in the future. So I hope that we can manage to get through them.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
In that same vein, since for the June meeting, we're going to discuss signs, we should come perhaps with the mindset that we are actually going to choose something. So bring your best game.
All said?
All right. I would like to offer 2 comments. I was looking at our agenda, and I had a question about the vision statement, and the second word in the vision statement is the word development. Should that be development or develop?
I think it's developed, I think somehow MENT ended up getting on there.
I didn't know, I was not here when the vision was created, and that's what I was curious whether it was
I think that's
a typo or not, okay. The second item with regards
Yes.
to our new manure ordinance, I'd like to share with you that I had my first dealings with a town person using horse manure, and we made the arrangements He came to my farm with his truck, I filled it up, and he went back home with manure. And he's happy, and I have less manure, and it didn't come from outside the property, outside the town. So
It didn't cost you
we're
to haul it.
already practicing
Morally
manures.
violating
It didn't cost you to haul it off, so.
Morally violating.
Morally, is he the Sunset Gardens owner? It was his manager.
Yes, he was asking who
Dave.
has any.
Yes, Dave came to see me for, and he's gonna come back and
Yeah.
get some more, so we're
So
already
you're
practicing the
fine.
new ordinance. Any other comments will be shared with us at the next meeting? Do we have a motion for adjournment?
If you could, before you finish.
Yes, item 7C, I apologize. I'm just trying to get this out quick.
I will help with that. I'd like to thank the outgoing chair and vice chair, and congratulate the incoming chair and vice chair, and appreciate you all's service. It seemed like a nice meeting tonight. Here we are, out of 8:30, so great.
Okay.
I would just say ditto, like you said.
We're adjourned. Mhm.
It's easier to look at, you want it.
Okay.
It's precise.
Sure, great. What I did is simply went on the internet and, moved it up to 400, so I can, see the parts and sections of it so that I can verify the correct location.
Well, I called them,
Mhm.
your grandfather's too tiny, you can't see it. And they said, oh, we'll make you a bigger copy.
Oh, cool.
So,
Well,
you know,
I actually went to their offices and they gave me this one, so I can go back and get a larger copy too.
Yeah, but you're going to call it,
Thank you.
or you can just have one.
Have a great evening. Bye. Thank you.
Good luck
Thank you,
for you
guys.
tomorrow.
Yeah, right on.
All right.